Hey guys, welcome to the Tyrant Network podcast. I'm your host, Corey Frederick, and off the mat today, I have a special guest, Titus Godbolt. Titus, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Um, I know I've gotten to know you over the past few years. Originally, you started coming in working some Tyrant tournaments as an official. Our relationship has grown on and off the mat. You become the head official at Tyrant events. You've become the president of the newly founded National Wrestling Officials Association that started maybe about a year ago. I just was really wanted to get you on the show and I guess let everybody get a chance to know you and maybe even an opportunity for me to get to know you a little bit better. So just kind of jumping right into it, whether it's personally or professionally or whatever, but why don't you give us a little bit of a history or a background of yourself or kind of how you got to where you're at, and then we'll get into detail about the NWOA and then some of your officiating in the NCAA.
Okay, well, my background, started. I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm the youngest son of 15 kids. There's 8 boys, 7 girls. We had 3 sets of twins. Went to Pemberton High School. Let me see. From there, I went to UNO, University of Nebraska of Omaha. I wrestled for them for 2 years. Then I turned around and went to Germany and wrestled freestyle for 4 years. And came back and just kind of life kind of took over and but now I'm here.
Well, aside from wrestling, you own your own, you manage like a corporate gym. You're a personal trainer. You want to touch on that a little bit because you're in great shape. I know that you talk to some of the officials about trying their health and wellness and try to keep them in the best of shape. But tell us a little bit about what you do in a full-time capacity.
Yeah, well, my full-time job is I have 3 gyms that are contracted to me, and they're corporate gyms. So basically, what we do is we just train a bunch of corporate people. So it's they're in shape, but they're not like they're trying to win the Olympics or anything. Basically, what they're trying to do is run around and catch the grandkids. So that's what we do. I have 4 trainers up under me. We set up classes. My daughter's the stretch therapist for there, and it's been it's been challenging, at first to get it up and running and everything like that. But once we got everything set up, I've been in business for like 14 years, going on 15. I mean, and it's been great. It's been a great life. Believe me, I've been blessed.
So do you just manage all 3 gyms and the trainers that work for you, or do you actually still work with people directly and do personal training yourself?
No, yes, I do work with people. I do take on clients. But I do like to kind of give all of the trainers under me. I like to give them the opportunity to get most of the clients because what I'll do, the way I have it set up, is everybody gets a complimentary training session. So there's 6 buildings, 8 floors. So there's a lot of tennis there, a lot of companies. So normally what I'll do is I'll go ahead and train them. And then once I train them, I'll start throwing them in their slots. Me, I keep some of the ones that when I first started out and stuff like that. So I have probably about 15, 20 clients that I trained personally. And we've grown this relationship over a long period of time that we're like friends now. We golf, we go on men retreats together and stuff like that. But other than that, the ones that want to start out fresh and new, I'll just funnel them down to my trainers.
Yeah. Now, I know you said you're from Jersey, but you reside in South Carolina. Are all 3 of those gyms in South Carolina?
Well, there's 2 in Charlotte and there's 1 in Raleigh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's fast forward to where you're at kind of today, but like your path to where you are today. So when did you start officiating and how and why did you become an official?
Well, I came back from Germany and my life kind of took a turn. And I winded up back in New Jersey. So I got back in New Jersey and well, no, let me take that back. I was in Maryland at the time. So I was living in Maryland. This is when me and my wife my wife right now, but we kind of got back together and everything like that. So a friend of mine named Sean Felkins, he told me, he said, "Hey Titus, why don't you come down and watch me and Jeffrey Washington, best friend of mine." And he said, "Why don't you come watch us officiate, man? You should join." And I said, "Man, I don't want to be an official." I said, "Man, I don't want to be an official." I said, "I hated officials because the officials screwed me when I was in college. And for some reason, that one stuck in my mind, just that one match." So he tricked me to get down to Morristown, New Jersey. I went to the high school. I get there, and he throws this bottle of water on him prior to him coming out. So he said, "Text me when you get here." So I texted him. Then he threw the water on himself, and then he came out and got me. And I said, wow, man. I said, was it hot in there? And he's like, no, 3 refs didn't show up. He said, man, I need you. I said, what do you mean you need me? He said, man, I'm dying in here. He said, look at me. And I'm looking at him. He's water everywhere. And I'm like, man, what the heck? And he's like, man, I need you to help us out. Get on the mat. And I told him, I said, man, I'm not officiating, man. I don't like officiating. He said, man, you going to leave me like this? And I said, no. And he said, Jeff, you got some pants? And Jeff said, yeah, I got pants. I said, he said, you got a whistle? Jeff said, yeah. I got a new whistle in my bag. So next thing you know, they gave me this pants. They gave me a shirt. And man, next thing you know, I'm out here on the mat. And I'm rolling around. And I'm telling you, it was like instant. It took off. I had the same feeling like when I was wrestling. And they seen the expression on my face. And these guys I wrestled with in high school. We won state championship and all that. So they seen that excitement. They had to have seen it. I didn't know it was at that time. And Sean looked at me and I looked, and there's 3 guys behind him. And they're all laughing at me. So I'm like, these guys laughing. And all of a sudden, they're like, you love it, don't you? And man, it just turned into me, loving officiating. So from that point on, I got certified in New Jersey. And after I got certified, things just kind of took off. And we started, I just started doing matches and everything. And Jeffrey, he's an assigner in New Jersey. So things kind of turned for him, and he had an assigning job, and he started giving me all these matches. And truly, that's probably how I got from A to Z so quickly, because a lot of guys that were coming out of cadet school, they weren't getting, varsity matches that quick. They had to build up. And Jeff just kind of threw me in the fire, and things just took off, man. And next thing I know, by the end of the year, I was getting a district. I got a region, and I just loved it. So from there, I moved.
So what was the first year? How many years ago was that?
So I graduated cadet school in 2011.
Okay.
And then I moved to South Carolina in 2012. So when I moved to South Carolina, a friend of ours that lives in Georgia, he said, you want to come up and do the high school nationals? So in Virginia Beach. So I said, yeah, I'll come up there. So me and Jeffrey went up there and we did the high school national. And I was seen by an NCAA referee. And he told who was my mentor now, a guy named Stephen Curtis. He's an NCAA evaluator, and he was Pac-12 coordinator. And he tells him, he says, man, you need to get that guy into college. And Stephen came up to me, he approached me, and I had been approached a year before that, but I was just starting out high school. I think they were probably just going with the look, because believe me, I couldn't have been good. Not that fast. So I was like, nah. I said, man, I love this high school stuff. I don't want to do no college. I said, they let them guys holler at you. I said, in high school, nah, we can control them. And then he told me he would mentor me. And when he said that, I never really had anybody that mentored me. So that was, to me, like the next level up. In my mind, I thought, okay, you're going to keep the coaches off me? But no, he can't keep the coaches off me. I still got to do that. But in my mind, that's what I thought he would do. So, he mentored me, gave me all the tools I need and everything. And so, I started doing it. And I got recognized by Kenny Ritchie. So Kenny Ritchie, he seen me. But first,
who's Kenny Ritchie?
Yeah, Kenny Ritchie he's the Big 12 coordinator.
Okay.
And I would say he moved the needle for me. But first, Jimmy Chung. Jimmy Chung was the AC coordinator, and he was probably the one who gave me my first break, because he liked me. Steven had told him about me, and he had seen me officiate, some high school stuff, and he had seen me officiate some college matches. And he told me to come and assist at Virginia Tech, and it was Virginia Tech against West Virginia. So I assisted Kevin Lineage. And so he was the one that gave me my first break. So, yeah. But
so how long have you been doing college now?
I've been doing college now for 9 years.
All right. And then I know you still do youth and high school and all that, but when did you talk about your journey through, because this past year, 2025 in Philadelphia was your first NCAA Division I championship. But prior to that, I believe you had some D2, D3s, things like that along the road. But talk a little bit about your journey and kind of how you got to where you're at. And really, like, everybody that wants to be a big time official, that's their ultimate goal, is to do D1 NCAAs, and you were able to do that. So can you just talk a little bit about how you got there and the road that you took, and then we'll kind of get into the NWOA, because I think, you already have some people that you mentor or that you work with that you've kind of expedited that road for them and cut the time down for them, and established more of a formal process. But talk a little bit about your own journey.
Yeah, well, like I said, Stephen Curtis and Angel Rivera, they took me under their wing, and when they did that, that was like something that really kind of catapulted me, because, like I said, I never really been mentored. I did start in New Jersey, but there was never a mentorship like they gave me, and like I am doing for other officials now with the NWOA, and we could talk about that a little later. So once they took me under their wing, and they started opening doors for me and talking to people and saying, we got this guy, he's ready for, doing matches at the next level and stuff like that. But early, I was doing a lot of D3 and D2 matches. So getting seen by all of those coaches, obviously that got me into the D2 National Championship. So my first one, I did my first D2 National Championship. Oh, man. Let me see, 25. So you're looking at 22. And then the next year, I got called back. And then I got called back again the year after that. So I did 3 D2 National Championships, which last year, the last 2 years, I got, I was ranked #1. So that was, that was great. And, you really can't really say, I don't think, like, who's a #1, because I think all of those guys there that get brought to the D2 National Championship, it's just like, who's having their best day. So, I mean, it's a good honor, but, you
Do
really
a lot of guys end up doing D3 or D2 first before they make it to D1, or there's some guys that just go straight to the D1 championships?
Nah, they won't do it like that because of the level. Once you get to D1, that is the highest level. That is like our Super Bowl. So therefore, they know that you're going to have some hiccups. There's going to be some nerves, things like that. So they try to get you to calm those down in the D2s or the D3 National Championship. And then once they feel like you're ready, they'll go ahead and give you the D1s. So I think Kenny Ritchie was a great catalyst as far as getting me to that next level in the D1s. And once I got into the Big 12, which was, this will be my 5th year in the Big 12. So once I got into the Big 12, then it's like, once you get into a conference, then they will go to bat for you. So in a conference, you'll probably have maybe 6 to 8 to 10 guys in that conference. So now it's like another battle. It's that next level where now all of you guys are basically kind of competing against each other. So once it gets towards the end of the season, now they have to kind of do their picks of who they think are ready in their conference for the D1 National Championship. But also still, there's another selection. He can select me, but then the uppers have to select me too. And that's kind of how the process was. And, I was, grateful to make it last year, and, hope I go back this year. But, I mean, it's great.
Do they take a certain number from each conference, or is it like if the Big 10 had all the best officials, they're just going to take everybody from the Big 10?
No, because the D1, basically every national championship has to have a representative from all of those schools. So you have the Pac-12, the SoCon, the MAC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC. So all of those schools are going to have wrestlers, all of those conferences. So they have to have a representative from all of those schools, not all of the schools, but all of the conferences. And that's basically kind of how they break it down. So they don't have no bias, because you can have those other schools saying that, we don't have any representation here. So I think it's a good way that they do it. Sometimes, some people may look at it like it's not fair, because the Big 10, most of the time, we know Big 10, it's, great wrestling, but most of the time the Big 10, they'll have most of the guys there. And that's Big 10 is the best wrestling. For my part, I think it is, but Big 12 is great too.
So when you say that, let's say you've been in the Big 12 for 5 years,
Yes.
do officials do you rotate around the different conferences, or will you eventually try to get into a different conference, or is it kind of like once you land in a conference, you just stay there?
Well, I've been asked to go to other conferences. I've been, approached to, get contracts, but my loyalty is to the Big 12. This right here, I will not leave. I'm saying it on this podcast. I will not leave the Big 12 until they're done with me. I made a promise to two individuals. I won't put their name out there because they did a lot for me. And well, I can say one of them is Kenny Ritchie, but the other one I'll leave out. But they did a lot for me to get me here. And I made a promise to them, like I'm sitting here talking to you, and we were looking each other in the eyes. And I told them, until you're done with me, I would never leave the Big 12, because they knew other people were going to come after me. And I'm grateful for that too. That just shows, how well I was trained and all of that stuff. And so it was just a promise I made. And, I
But
stick
do
my
some
word.
officials try to jump to other conferences, or do they say, or like, let's just say if they're in a what would be considered a weaker conference, are they trying to get to a Big 12 or a Big 10?
Yes.
All right, but
Yeah.
let's just say if I'm in the Big 10 and I've been there for 5 years, am I then going to say, you know what, I want to do the Big 12 now, or do officials tend to stay in their conference once they get to a higher level?
Well, they'll tend to stay in their conference, but if they have problems in that conference, like let's just say they get there and they try to be a lonesome cowboy, they don't want to be as a team, as a unit, and they want to kind of do their own thing and officiate their own way. Some people may get put out of their conferences. I mean, I've seen it happen, but and I've seen people go to other conferences because they weren't happy. So they do have that option, but they gotta want you, and you gotta be good. You gotta fit the bill, because if you don't fit the bill, they're not just going to put anybody out there, because these wrestlers, I feel, that they deserve to get the best officials out there on that mat, and they
So
should
let's
all
say
be.
you have a dual meet, a Big 12 school and a Big 10 school.
Yes.
So do you have one official from each conference at that dual, or do
Now
you?
they can, but they don't have to. I think more so we do it now today to try to keep, to try to kind of keep things even. Now, it may be on Big 10 soil, but they'll say, okay, we're going to have, since it's a Big 12 school here, we're not going to have two Big 10 guys. We'll kind of split it up. And it just makes everybody feel good, So I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think they should
But
do that a lot more.
when you have, well, okay, so let's even fast forward to like the NCAA championship, and but even if you have two different conference officials at that dual meet, or if you're at the NCAA championship or anywhere where they have two-man mechanics, is it easier or more comfortable for an official to officiate a match with the second official if they're familiar with them, versus, let's say, they're a stranger, they've never officiated with them before? Or is it
Mhm.
once you get to a certain level, you pretty much know how to work together regardless?
Yeah, you said exactly. I was just going to say it. Once you get to that level right there, they know that you can pretty much work with anybody. Because why? You've been trained as a head official, and you've also been trained as a second official. It doesn't matter who I have out there. I just need to trust you, and you need to trust me. And that's what it's all about. If you tell me that, hey, let's just say I missed the call. I didn't think it was a takedown because I was out of position, and he's seen everything was covered. And he comes to me and he says, hey, I got three there. Okay, I'll probably go right with it. Or we can just go and look at it, because they have video review. And it's just about being, just trust your partner. That's all. And once you get to
Yeah.
that level, everybody's pretty solid. Nobody's trying to backstab anybody, trying to get to the nationals. We're already here. So
What do you think the big, I mean, and you can talk about the divisions within college, but let's just say high school and college. Like from an official's perspective, like what's the biggest difference in doing, let's say, high school, even if it's high level high school, Beast of the East, Ironman, those types of tournaments, versus doing Division I college?
wow, for me, I like to always speak about me. So when I'm doing high school, it's kind of like my brain is, because I've been doing high school so much, and the speed of it is at a certain speed. College is at a certain speed. That high school speed, it's in my mind, it's like being in the matrix. I can kind of pretty much see and predict what's going to happen. I can kind of see it. In college, they are so tricky, they are so fast, they are so smart, that they'll try to bend the rules. you know, and we have those other little things that they don't have, like the neutral danger, like the back outs, the push out, you know, or it's action going out of bounds. They don't really have that in high school. So that comes into play when you're on that line or those tough calls and situations like that. If they're in a scramble and one guy back is 90 degrees, less than 90 degrees to the mat, that's a danger. 1, 2, 3, and a takedown, and he can still be in that situation where you have a kind of a 69 situation, and if he's 45 degrees or less, oh, he's getting near fall now. But if he's not, he's just still in control. So it's tricky, but I would say, you know, if you are confident in the rules and what you're doing, then things are going to be, I'm not just going to say it's easy, but they're going to be so much easier for you. You just got to have confidence in those rules, and you just got to know what you're doing. And that's
What's it like to bounce back and forth though between, I mean, I think some college guys, they're only doing college, at least in season. But for some of the guys that are doing high school and college, is that a hard transition to do college one weekend and high school the next? Or is it just, no, it's not really not that big of a deal?
Well, for me, like I said, I'll only speak for me. For me, it's not. My wife always pretty much tells me I'm a robot, so I can kind of click things on and click things off. But I do know guys that they will not do a high school match, you know, before. And my boss has told me, you know, if you're going to do a tough duel like an Iowa versus an Oklahoma State, he'll tell me, I recommend that you don't do no high school match before you do that, just because the speed is so different, you know, and they're so technical. Where in high school, they can go to their back, they can do, you know, be in neutral danger. They don't care about none of that stuff. All you're looking for is the defensive fall. But where in college, it's just totally different. So it's hard, but it's, you know.
All right, so talk a little bit about the National Wrestling Officials Association. I know that Tyrant Wrestling Tournaments, our organization has partnered with your organization, but you know, how did this all come about? You know, was it something that you've had an idea for years and you just finally got around to doing it? Did something happen? Like what caused you to come up with this and to start this organization and really, you know, for all intents and purposes, to give back or to provide what you didn't have or others didn't have for years and years and years, and all the things that you guys are doing?
Well, actually, yeah, I've had this on my mind probably for about 2 years. And then I remember, you know, me and a buddy of mine, you know, Jeffrey, we sat there and we kept going over it and over and over, and we just kept talking about it, and just nothing was happening at that time. It was just kind of frustrating me. So, you know, I just said, you know, we're going to do it, and we kind of put it together and everything, and we didn't have a name, so we started searching for a name and stuff like that, and we just came up with NWOA. Because we didn't think that name was out there. So we just kind of came up with that name because, you know, it is a national. We get officials from all over the country, you know, and all over the country, guys come to your tournament. So I thought it would be a great fit. So we put it together and we called it NWOA. And so one thing that I really wanted to bring to it was the fact that all that I received during my career, and my career is still going on, and you know, and I'm still, you know, preparing for matches and everything like that, like I would years ago, because I'm never trying to stop learning. But what I'm bringing into NWOA is the fact of all the knowledge that I've gotten from the guys like Stephen Curtis, Kenny Ritchie, Jimmy Chung, Mike Haggerty. You know, all of these guys have helped me to get to where I'm at. So when we started this association, I just told myself, with the knowledge and everything that was given to me, I want to give back to them. And then how do you do that? So then I started thinking with my partner, we need to have an evaluation system. Why? Because everybody around the country, all that you hear these guys talk about is that they do not get evaluated. Or if they do, it's a, hey, how did I do? Oh man, you're doing good, man. Just, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. That's not an evaluation. That's a pat on the back. An evaluation is where you're told where you're positioning. You're told where you should be at with near fall. You're told about your mechanics. You're told about your pants, your shirt you're wearing, whether it's iron, whether, you know, you look good, you're groomed, your hair is cut. You know, all of these things you are told about. You know, do you study the book? You know, do you go over match procedures when you go to schools? Do you get there early? Do you get there on time, 45 minutes to an hour before? All of these things people need, because people start to get laxy-daisy about what they're doing. But if you're constantly getting training and reinforced and getting evaluated, this is the best product that we can put out here in this country for these wrestlers. And once again, I will always say, if you keep the focus on the wrestlers, you know, you will never go wrong. Keep the focus off of us. We are nothing but a small part of what's going out there on that mat. Okay? They're the action. They're the show. We are nothing but a conductor. That's all we do. We just direct the traffic and try to keep things safe.
I mean, the name makes sense because I know you guys are pulling officials from all over the country. It's not, you know, solely from one state or one region. But without knocking other organizations or more so local organizations, but are the what you're providing to your members, is it not being provided at the, like, I'm in Delaware, okay, so I'll just use Delaware as an example. I don't know anybody that's involved at this point, so I'm just saying that because I'm here. But is the Delaware Wrestling Officials Association potentially, but let's just say that local organization, and I know like Jersey has multiple ones, South Jersey and things like that, but are they not giving that level of education or evaluation, or like what's the difference between the local state organization and then let's just say what you guys are providing?
What the difference is when you join your association, I'll just speak about mine. When I joined my association, and this is not a knock on South Carolina, right, or North Carolina, you know, this is just the truth. So when I joined my association, I get together, we take the test, you know, I pass the test. Then I go to 2 clinics. We go to 2 clinics. They'll have a tournament there for the newer officials. If you're 5 years or down, for the newer officials, you'll get on the mat. Guys like myself and other veteran officials, we will evaluate them. You'll go to a rules class that same day. Like, all of this is being done that day. And then you'll do that, and then we're sent home. After that, there is no more evaluations. There's no more evaluations. We may send a guy maybe to go look at a guy to see if we're going to give him like some postseason or stuff like that. But pretty much that is it. But what my association is doing at every Tyrant event, and I think Tyrant has 21 events around the country. Every Tyrant event that they do, they will get a clinic. They will get mentored. They would do a match. They will get pulled to the side while another guy goes in there and officiates the next duel. They will get right now on the mat training right there to know. It is so critical and important to get all of that when you come right there off the mat, because it's fresh in your head. If I make a mistake today and I don't have another match until next month, how am I going to get out there and practice it? While we are at your event and the evaluators are there, our pod leaders who are evaluators too, while they're there and they're pulling those guys off the mat and they're doing clinics and all of that stuff, you are so quick to correct your mistakes and get back out there and apply it so that you can do it right the next time. That, I mean, that is like next level stuff. You know, I wouldn't want to go home knowing that I made a mistake and can't get back on the mat for 2 or 3 weeks. That would eat at me. So that's something that we're bringing to the table. And like I said, it's not a knock on anybody. It's just that 1 or 2 clinics that you do, that's not enough. These kids deserve better. You know, they just deserve better. That's what I feel.
So I know as an organization, I was Tyrant was the first organization to partner with you guys, basically hire you for your services. But if there's other individual tournaments or tournament organizations that have multiple events across the country, they can do the same thing, right? Like they can contact you or any of the people that are part of the NWOA and, you know, contract your services as well, whether it's assigning officials or anything. But at the end of the day, it starts with, hey, I want to hire the NWOA to assign my tournament. And then you take care of getting all the officials and you do all the legwork, you bring in the best guys. But then on top of that, depending on what level service they want, you're gonna provide more tenured or experienced officials that will do the whole evaluation process and monitor things and take care of things so they have the best possible product to provide to their customers.
Oh, without a doubt. Like right now, outside of your tournaments, Tyrant tournaments, we have like 3 other tournaments that we're doing. I don't think it's good to speak about them right here, but we do. We have 3 tournaments that hired us for our services, and they like what and love what we're doing, and they're welcoming us back. So obviously they love what we do because they told us they heard about us, and I mean that's a great thing. You know, they've heard about some of the officials that we have gotten into conferences because, like you said earlier, you know, I mentor several guys like personally, and I mentored them prior to me ever partnering with Tyrant. And one of the gentlemen that I mentor, his name is Jonathan Sutton. And right now, Jonathan Sutton has worked his way up to being in the Big 12. This is actually going to be his second year into the Big 12. And these are the things that we're going to do for officials. You know,
We actually just dropped his podcast today. Timing was a little off, and one, he was on before you, and two, it's probably a little too close to have a couple officials on the podcast, but it is what it is. But we had him on the podcast last week. He spoke, to you and the organization, and kind of talked about how he was fast tracked, and and within 5 years he's doing D1, Big 12 matches, and but yeah, so that dropped today, and he kind of talked about the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people, the importance of that network and that continuing education and that mentorship and all those types of things. So obviously what you're doing is working now. I think before it was being done informally, similar to what you have, but now there's a formal process and organization in place that you guys have established over the past year.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, it was just done where you would hope that somebody would pull you aside and take you under their wing. But now we have an organization, that anybody around the country can join. And we, like I said, we do have guys all around the country. And here it is. Here it is for you. You can join. All we ask is that you listen. Just be respectful. We practice and preach professionalism. We practice and preach be ready. We practice and preach, be on time. All of these things that an official should be, because there's a storm out there, and we're the ones in it, and we got to keep it calm. So I always try to tell officials, if you don't meet fire with fire, because what do you have? You have a bigger fire. So, if anybody wants to really, really learn how to be an official, how to be professional, how to control your emotions, all I can say is, hey, come to NWOA, because, we're here. And, we're not discriminating, we just want you to be professional and just be right.
It's funny. Well, so I coached for like 20 plus years, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I heard about you.
I'll go on the record to publicly apologize to a lot of officials that I put through hell. But, when I was young, though, I started coaching when I was 19 or 20 years old. So, and I thought I could win every call, and I thought by harassing them or riding their ass that I would get the calls, and it was probably the opposite. And the thing is, there was probably more often than not I was correct, but the way that I handle things and the way that I communicated, and on top of that, being a youth wrestling coach, you don't always get the same level of respect as if you were high school or college. They think you're just another dad, so, but I just, I kind of remember my coach going to the head table or saying certain things. He was nowhere near as aggressive as me, but and then sometimes you just get so frustrated, right? But what I do remember, and this is what I love about the NWOA, right, is that I would just remember, as a coach, even when I was finishing up high school, it's the wrestlers are training, 5 to 7 days a week. Almost year round. Some of them year round, some of them not. But they're basically practicing every single day of the week. And then I would look at some of the officials, and I would be like, what are they doing to get better, right? What are they doing to improve? They're not going to practice. They're not doing anything. They're just showing up, and they're making the same old mistakes, or some of them don't know the rules. And the test is an open book test, so anybody can pass. Anybody can pass the test, right? So it just used to get so frustrating. Then and I'll speak about stuff now in the current environment as a tournament director, but it's it was people were getting hired sometimes, and this is anything in life, but sometimes they're just getting the job or getting the tournament because they're part of the Good Old Boy Network. And when I took over the private school Maryland State Championship, it wasn't intentionally done, and we still hire local Maryland officials for that tournament. but you got to be a really good official. Doesn't matter where you're from. So like, you know, if we could hire all the Maryland officials, great. But if not, if we have guys coming, we've had them, what, Georgia, South Carolina, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Texas. Well, you know, if we got good officials or the best officials that are willing to come, no matter where they're from, I think the kids, you know, the wrestlers, the coaches, the parents, they deserve to have the best official on the mat, and
Exactly.
they deserve somebody that's not going to be biased, right? They deserve to have somebody that, you know, that referee didn't wrestle against your dad or the other coach or in high school or whatever. And, you know, and whether they know it or not, sometimes you're just biased because of how you grew up or who you know or who you went against or, you know, who you didn't like in high school. So, you know, for me personally, you know, when I got into like everything else I do is non-sanctioned, right? But for that tournament specifically, you know, the first year, you know, the Maryland guy assigned everything. And, you know, wasn't necessarily upset. And the second year just kind of happened by accident. Then it's evolved every single year. Again, we just want to hire the best official. If they just so happen to be from the state of Maryland, great. That's even better. But if not, we're going to bring in the best officials, just like our Tyrant tournaments. We're going to bring in the best officials possible. And, you know, no matter how far we have to go, we're not just going to hire people because they're 20 minutes away. I mean, my hotel bill is through the roof every single tournament because we provide lodging for the officials. So, you know, I could say to Aaron Morrow, our assigner, hey, get me all the officials that you can that don't require a hotel room that are within an hour drive of my tournament so I can save money. Or I can say, hey, get me the best possible officials you can. And I don't care where they come from because the people that come to our events deserve the best possible experience. And I'll tell
Exactly.
you, though, like since, not that we always didn't want the best officials, but when I was a young tournament director, I didn't really know the process, or we were kind of handling things on our own, or you just always naturally use the local organization, not knowing. But as we grew, our own tournaments grew to a national level, and then more so since we partnered with the NWOA, which is at a national level with your officials, we have heavily invested into that. But what I'll say is, I feel like we're getting more calls right. I feel like there's less arguments from the coaches or the parents. I feel like there's less issues off the mat. Like, you know, we started a couple, now I know there's some other tournaments that do it now, but it's been, I don't know, maybe 3 years since we started giving out an official of the tournament award, just like an outstanding wrestler award, but we give out an official of the tournament award. And instead of parents or coaches coming up and complaining about how bad an official is, which still happens on occasion,
Yeah.
but more often than not, now they're coming up and asking where they nominate the official of the tournament. So, and the I don't know, the partnership, but the relationship that's gotten established between the official and the coaches, wrestlers, parents, that there's been a bridge there that has connected them, when typically it's like, you know, it's like the cops versus the you know, the criminals, right? It's
Yeah.
like, you know, they it's like you're just naturally always you see an official and it's like, oh man, I hate them, or oh, I got them again. Where now, like, you know, we've I think we've changed things, and it's for the better, where there's not much complaining now, and people are recognizing how good these officials are, how hard they try, or hey, the official, I feel like maybe didn't make the best call, or maybe he was just wrong. He's not hearing me. All right, I know now I can talk to the head official, Titus. I can talk to the pod leader. I can talk to an evaluator. I can bring it up to somebody and then get a second opinion. And then we can either correct the coach or the parent, or it's like, you know what, thank you for that. We'll watch the video and we're going to get with that official and give them some feedback so it doesn't happen again. And I'll just say, you know, it's cost me, you know, it's been an investment for sure. Like, I don't want to say it's an expense, but it has been a significant investment. But the return on my investment has been nothing but positive for the people that come to our events. And I couldn't be happier with what, you know, the end product.
No, that's great, because I feel the same. I feel we have bridged the gap, because, you know, they're not a lot of people going to be coming up hollering now. They're going to be coming up and they're going to be questioning, ask a question about, hey, what about that call? And they're going to probably feel maybe they missed it. But you know what? That official, he's going to be respectful. They're not going to holler at each other. They're going to understand. They're probably going to leave there with an understanding of, okay, it was a 50-50 call, and he made it. He made the best call with his judgment. And that's a great thing. Those are the type of things you want. You want parents, coaches, you want them to know that there is consistency here across the board. And that's what we're trying to bring. Everybody's not going to look the same. Everybody may not, like your judgment, everybody's judgment is not going to be right there at the same time, but we're going to be close as hell. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you want, because coaches, all they want They want consistency, because if they see that you're calling the calls consistently, then they can turn around and they'll know how to coach their wrestlers. But when you're all over the place calling stalling and it's not stalling and this and this and that, it's hard for them to coach their kids, you know? So yeah, I think it's a great thing, you know, us partnering with you, and really appreciate that. You know, you taking us on and trusting that we can come in here and provide a great product for you, you know, and I hope we've done that.
Yeah, it's funny. Jonathan brought up some points last weekend that I've never really thought about, at least not from a tournament director perspective. But, you know, especially when he was a young official, but he was saying like, hey, you know, if I'm doing an individual tournament, I might have that coach one match or maybe a couple of times throughout the tournament. But when you're doing a dual meet tournament, you have them 15 matches in a row. And, you know, so, but to your point earlier is that if you're maybe you're aggressive in calling stalling, or maybe, you know, there's certain things you have a certain style, but now that coach has the opportunity to adapt to that referee style. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if that official's not doing maybe what he should be doing, or he's making some you know, mistakes, then he's going to hear from that guy, and that guy is going to grow frustrated, and he is going to start lighting them up a little bit, you know. But I think, you know, so I've never thought about that until he brought that up, just because I'm kind of on the other side of the fence now.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I wear multiple hats, but I thought that was you know, a different perspective on things as well. I know that. So we partnered with you even more. So Columbus Day duels in 2 weeks. At the end of September. It used to be Columbus Day weekend forever until, you know, last year. But so the last weekend of September, we're running 92 mats.
Wow.
And we're going to have, you know, almost 190 teams, but we're running 92 mats this year. So one, I would say that, you know, when you're running that many mats, or even if you're running 40, 50 mats, but sometimes it can be a challenge to get all the best officials, right? They're all different levels. So I know that, you know, depending on what we have, but what I really wanted to say is that we partnered with you, that the NWOA is running their preseason / annual conference in conjunction with the Columbus Day Duel. So you guys are coming in on Friday morning. You're going to have your conference / convention all day Friday. And then on Saturday and Sunday, they'll be officiating. And then at the end of Saturday, typical of what we do with our own tournaments anyway, but you'll have a clinic at the end of Saturday. And then you guys are finishing out with like a reception style dinner and all those types of things. But why don't you talk a little bit about that conference, and, you know, how that came about, or why is that unique? Because I really don't think there's anything like that going on throughout the country at any level for the most part.
No. And I thought, you know, I've been to a lot of these, and so once I first, you know, started talking to you, and I figured we could put our heads together. We've never had a conference / tournament, you know, on the level in which we're having it. So therefore, in doing that, you know, I figured, you know, we should bring in a lot of these great evaluators that could get these guys off the mat and get them trained while we got them here now. So we have a large portion of our members, because we have a lot of members now. So we have a large portion of our members here at this tournament, right? If we can get the best evaluators that we can get here and to train these guys, we can get these guys so quick to where they're trying to get to. And that's the importance of doing that, getting them, you know, evaluations and all that stuff. So who we have Stephen Curtis, and he's our head evaluator. We have Josh Briscoe. Josh Briscoe's in the Big 12 with me. We have 2 Big 10 guys, which is Matt Sorzinski, Nick Grasso. We have the EIWA official, which is Jim Ravello, and then we also have an ACC. So just like we have somebody dang there from every conference coming. This is Kevin Lineage. So we have, you know, somebody there from every conference, you know, that has different perspectives, that are going to come in there, and they're going to help train these guys and get these guys, you know, prepared for the season, because the season is getting ready to start for everybody here in a couple of months. And so the quicker we can get these guys and try to get everybody on the same page, you know, I think it'll really be great for the sport, but more so it'll be great for these guys that are joining NWOA, because that's what they come here for. They're coming here to get better, you know, so that they can go out and they can represent their states, or, you know, get state championships. A lot of these guys, they haven't done much. but they want to be the best official that they can be. So, it's a great thing what we're doing. I've never seen nothing done like this in what we're doing, and I'm just glad that you guys, trusted in us and allowed us to come up in here and just show you what we got.
I mean, so it's probably similar to coaching, and it can be any sport, but I'm a coach and I got a guy that comes in that wants to be the best. That's easy. Man, that's what everybody dreams of, is working with the guy that has big goals and wants to be the best. But what about the guy that's just coming out and doing it for fun, or you got cherry picked out of the hallway that, is just filling a hole? So some of these officials, and there's nothing wrong with this, but some guys don't want to be an NCAA official. Some guys don't want to be the best official. Some guys just do it just because they got nothing better to do, or they do it because they love the sport, or they do it because they need the extra money. But what about the guys that really just don't have aspirations to move up that corporate ladder in the officiating world? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, why would they want to be an NWA member, or why would they want to come to a conference, or why do they need to do any of that shit if they have no interest in becoming the best official?
I sit around a lot of officials, and I hear some of them talk about, man, I don't want to do, I'm not here to do a national championship. I could care less if I get it. I think, me personally, I think that's a bunch of bullshit, because that would be like you being, as a person, you being at the job and saying to myself, I don't care if I get a raise or not, or I don't care if I move up the ladder. That to me is just a bunch of bullshit. I think that person maybe he's seeing that all this talent around him, because we have a lot of officials that are good, that are going to be good, that are getting good. So for somebody just to say that, I think there may be a little bit of insecurity there. There may be a little bit of nervousness, what you see in all of these officials around. But for somebody just to say, and I'm going to say too, if they're younger, if they're just an older individual and they join our association, okay, mindset, I'm going to probably think that they're just joining, they want to make some extra money. Maybe they're bored at home. Maybe they're tired of being around their wife. Who knows, right? But if it's a younger person, right? Believe me, he wants to get better, because that's why he's joining. He wants to get better. He just may be a little nervous of all this talent and everything that he's seeing around. So I don't really listen to a lot of that. I sit and watch people, and what I'm seeing a lot of these officials, they want what we have to offer. I get calls. There's not an official who will say that Titus that he hasn't spoke to me. I call every one of the officials when they join. Everyone receives a call from me, and I talk to them right then. So if there is somebody who says, hey man, I just want to make some money, I haven't heard it, because I've talked to over 200 something officials, and they haven't told me that. What they've told me is, hey man, I haven't done a state championship. There's some big tournaments that I like to do, the Beast of the East, the Super 32, the Journeyman, this and this and that. Those are the things I want to get good enough that I can get. Those are a lot of the things that I'm hearing. I don't know what you may be hearing, but that's what I'm hearing. So for a guy to just say he just wants to come in and I don't want to do that, I think that's a crock of shit. I think they really want, but they're scared, because in their state they didn't get it, and to see what we're giving, and to come there and sit back and to see these guys coming that you watch on TV, because I'm bringing in D1 guys to help these guys get their skills tight. It's a little intimidating. It is. So I know for a fact that these guys, they want to be better. They want to be the best official that they can be. They want to go out there and they want to represent their state. They want to go back and they want to go and do their state championship, because this is the stuff that they're telling me. So unless they're telling somebody else behind my back, I know what they're telling me, because I call everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, and we've talked a little bit about this, right? Because now at our tournaments, no matter what, you're going to come to that. Now, most of the time it's going to be in the morning on day 2, but it's to review day 1 and to make some adjustments, to give them some feedback and get them ready for day 2. But my thing is, whether you want to be an NCAA official or not, or whether you want to be the best or the highest, official out there or not, you still are coming to work every single day. And my tournaments are work. So it's just like, no matter where you work or what your job is, I've always said, like, hey, do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to be an owner? Some people say, no, I'm happy just being at the level that I'm at. Okay, well, that's fine. If you don't want to be the best official out there, at the highest level, but you're coming and you're collecting a paycheck and you're going to be a part of this organization, we still need you to be the best that you can be in doing your job. And if you choose not to move up or do bigger and better things, that's okay. But I still need you to give 100% and be the best that you can be at this level. So, and I think that's what's important, right? So like, regardless of whether you want to move up or whether you just want to work where you're at, you still have to come in and be receptive to feedback and open to ideas, or know, or be just be coachable, right? But
Yeah.
show up on time, right? Be a team player, have a positive attitude, just all those things. And I think, I mean, the crazy thing, well, I don't even want to let the cat out of the bag, but I was going to say the crazy thing is I think we've established such a great relationship with our officials that a lot of our officials help with setup and breakdown at our tournaments.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they're willing to do other things, and they work weigh-ins and, all those things. So it's like, to me, like, I take that as a huge compliment, because why the hell would you want to help me with my tournament if we weren't doing something right? Now,
I think
they,
it's a testament to what you guys bring to the table. The tournaments are. I've been to so many tournaments around the country, Corey, that I can't. I'm not going to throw no names out there because I don't want nobody to think I'm kind of shitting on their tournament or anything like that. But I've been to so many tournaments that are they're ran poorly. The internet shuts down, or they'll be there'll be a tournament of 21 mats, but they'll only be running 25 mats, and we're there from 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. I think if you run the rest of those mats, it just gets everybody out of there quicker. So your tournaments are so efficiently ran. They're so professionally ran. You guys are feeding us. People coming around. You're giving people water. If a coach wants coffee, you're bringing coffee to them. I mean, who gets this? Nobody gets this. I mean, if I wasn't an official, I come there and wrestle. I mean, it's like Cheers. It's like everybody there is family. It's that bar you go to, everybody's just happy. So that is a testament to what you guys are doing, and that's why everybody's happy when they come there. You know what I mean? Yeah, they may get a little frustrated about a call or something like that, but at the end of the day, people are leaving. They're shaking our hands. There's very seldom I go to a tournament and where they're shaking our hands and there's we're getting looked at, and growled at like they pit bulls leaving here. But it's the environment that you guys bring, man. That is a testament to what Tyrant does. No, they talk about your tournaments all around the country. Everywhere I go, they say we heard about those tournaments and we got to get there. And this might be far away states that I'm at, but I tell them, just come, man. You will see. You will always come back to these tournaments because you will see how professionally they are ran and so smooth.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always that way, right? Like, I was a coach when I first started running tournaments, but eventually, I focused on it, just like, you want to be the best official, I want to be the best tournament director, right? So, and I always say I wear 3 different hats. I am a tournament director, I was a coach, and I was a parent. And, so now it's like, if I can do right by all 3 of those things, then I should be providing a pretty good experience to people. And then you care about them, right? It's like calling customer service. Like, I used to work at MBNA America, the credit card company, and that's probably like the equivalent of American Express now, right? Yeah. But when you call American Express, you're going to get high level service. When you call some shitty little credit card company, they don't care that you got a late fee. They don't care that you were in the hospital. They're not waiving that fee. They're not doing any of those things. So, I just think that the officials, to me, have become no different than we want to have the best awards, or we want to have the cleanest, nicest, newest mats, or we want to have good facilities, or we don't, this past year, we were going to bring an event back to Delaware in the summertime. And for whatever reason, at the very last minute before I signed the contract, I said, in that field house, do you have air conditioning? And they said, no, And I said, well, shit, as much as I wanted to do it, I didn't do it because, I mean, I don't know, 20 years ago or before we became what we are now, yeah, we would have probably have done it, but that would have been miserable. You don't know if you're going to have a 70-degree day or a 110-degree day and what the humidity was going to be. And when you're charging these people, a premium to come to your premium events, you can't expect them to come in and have shitty restrooms or no parking or, no air conditioning and things like that. So I just think everything that we're doing now, you got to think about what everybody else is going to experience, and you try to give them the best possible experience possible when they come to the events. But so if I'm not an official, and I know, you guys are setting up like a tent at our tournaments now and things like that, like you have like a vendor booth. So, but what people that are watching and listening to this, one, and I'm stating what I've learned, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one, if you're a current official, you want them to sign up for the NWOA, become a member, and take advantage of all the benefits. But more importantly, now, let's say with that booth that you guys are going to have set up, or regardless of whether they're at a Tyrant tournament or one of the other tournaments you mentioned that you guys are partnered with, if you're not an official yet and you want to become a wrestling official, they should still contact you so they can become a certified official and start officiating wrestling tournaments or matches.
Yeah. So what we do at your tournament is we set up our booth, and we'll always have somebody stationed at that booth, and they can just go up to them. They can talk. We'll have a TV set up there. They'll be able to, view the screen and a little slideshow of what we're doing. We'll have business cards out there, and they'll always be able to talk to somebody and just find out about what we're doing and how they can get signed up. And we'll be able to handle all the questions that they have.
I mean, because my understanding is no matter what sport it is, baseball, soccer, wrestling, it's hard to get officials nowadays with society in the way that parents and coaches are acting and treating them, or physical altercations, just all of those things. I think some people, no different than yourself, like I might not ever do something, but if somebody asked me, like if my ex-father-in-law didn't ask me to coach, I don't know if I ever would have gotten coaching. But all you had to, like, and a lot of times I ask people, like, how did you get into that? Or why did you do that? Or how come you didn't? And they say, all you had to do was ask, or somebody just finally asked them. So no different than you getting tricked into becoming an official. But if nobody ever asked you, they wouldn't do it. But I think there's some people that probably have an interest. They just don't know how to go about doing it.
Yeah. And like I say, we're here for them. They just need to come up and talk to us. Matter of fact, I think after our call, 7:00, I got a call with about 25 officials that I'll be talking to that are newer officials that want to get signed up and stuff like that. So I'm going to do a little presentation for them. And, that's what we do. So, anybody out there, if you're an organizer or an assigner or whatever, and you have a team of officials and you want them to come out and get better, because you don't get better during the season. You get better off season or year round. And that's what Tyrant presents. They give you tournaments all around the country. So if you want to get better, want to be better, I suggest you try to join some association so that you can just work all year around and you can get, you can just get better.
Yeah. So anything else anything we didn't touch on the NWOA, or even just officiating in general, that you would want to share with people, or your journey to becoming a D1 official last year? When I say D1, I'm saying you made it to the championships, because you've done D1 for a few years.
Yeah, I can say that never stop chasing your dream. It's a story for another day, another time, but I had so many roadblocks put in front of me, to reach this goal. I always remember the first time that Stephen Curtis and Angel came out to evaluate me, and actually it was Angel. And I thought I was a pretty good high school official. I did, senior nationals. I got the first year I got there, I got a final out of the 70 guys they got there. So, I always thought I was pretty good until I got in front of this guy that I sat and watched on TV. And when I tell you he ripped me apart, have you ever seen that yellow legal pad? It was about this long. And he had something written on every line. And then when it really, really rocked my world, it brought me down. Like I'm telling you, like just chopped my legs from up under me. And everything that he told me that I did was wrong, he made me remember it. And how he made me remember it, because he had the time, he had the period in which it was. He described the movement, everything. And I told myself that this is what I want. And then at the end of that, he asked me, what are your goals? And after him just ripping me apart, I've always been a strong-willed person. I've always been a person that if I set my sights on something, 9 out of 10 times I'm going to get it, because I'm probably going to kill myself trying to get it. And he asked me, and I told him, I said, I want to be a D1 official. I want to do D1 national championship. He looked at it and he held me that paper and he said, well, you need to start chopping these down. So I say to anybody out there who wants to be an official, come join a good official who wants to listen, who wants to really take criticism, who wants to be professional, who wants to be on time, who wants to not holler at coaches when coaches holler, because they're going to be coaches, but we are officials. Anybody that wants to do that, you come join NWOA, and we're going to show you how to do that. And I guarantee you, if you listen, you will be that. And never stop chasing your dream. Never. Like I said, There have been so many roadblocks put in front of me, but I chopped them all down. And how I chopped them all down, I have always had God on my side. And I chopped them down, and he sees that I want to keep putting my best foot in front of me. So never stop chasing your dreams. Just don't stop. And doors will open for you. And how they will, God will put those people. Once you get to a point to where you can't knock the door down no more, God will put the people in front of you, and they'll knock the door down. So just never stop chasing your dream, and just know that we're here for you.
So you talked a little bit about, though, kind of giving some, I don't know, a motivational perspective or advice to officials, but I'm gonna spin it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, being, as an official, what could you share with either coaches or parents, more so the parent probably at the youth level, but what perspective could you give them from an official standpoint? Like, what could you tell them? Like, what advice could you give them, or how can we make them maybe a little bit more understanding, or just see things a little bit differently, and not just that little Johnny lost the match, or you cost my kid the match? And there are times where, like, the official made the bad call, and it probably did cost the kid the match. But if they're 6 years old, it probably doesn't matter. Or there was plenty of times where the official actually made the right call, but you're seeing it from your side of the mat, and you just know that your kid lost. But I mean, like, what could you share with, whether it be a coach or a parent, just to give them a little bit of perspective from an official standpoint?
I would say, from an official standpoint, when I go to the table and a coach / parent brings me to the table, the first thing I think about is, does he have the knowledge of the rule book? Because that's the only thing that I can speak on. So advice I would give to parents and coaches while they're sitting out there, and you're barking at us and telling us that we maybe got such and such wrong, or this or that, or we started because it was not potentially dangerous, but maybe it was. It doesn't take but 15 minutes to read the rule book. If they read that rule book, I think it will help them get a truly better understanding of what we're dealing with out there. Because they're out there, they have their emotions in it because it's their son, right? And then also it's their teammate. But what we're dealing with is that rule book that we read day in and day out, right? Everybody should read it before the season starts. And we have the knowledge of knowing these rules, and we go out here, and all we're here for, we're just applying the rule. We're applying the rule and how we're supposed to apply it. Now, I don't think that they know that we go to conferences, we have to go to meetings, and rules may slightly change. Every 2 years, something's taken out, something's put in. See, they don't know that. So they may be going off an old rule. But if they stay up on things like we do and read that rule book, I think it'll help give parents and coaches a better understanding. Because you see a Cal Sanders sit over there, right? He'll never get out that chair. But if he get out that chair, 9 out of 10 times, you might think that you did something wrong, right? He prepares his, if he gets out that chair and comes to that table, you better start thinking, ooh, because they read the rule book.
Right.
Good and great coaches read the rule book. So when they know that you haven't applied something right, or you made a mistake, yeah, they're going to bring you to the table. So, parents.
And then it's how you bring it to the table, though. Instead of screaming and hollering,
yeah,
you treat them with respect. You talk to them like they're a human, and then you got to present your case. Otherwise, they're just going to shut down and not listen to you anyway.
Yes. If you come up there screaming and everything, but the way we're trying to educate, the officials and train the officials, that we already know you're coming up like that. So we need to get a moment, find ourselves, and then we come to the table. We're going to hear you out, because every coach has the right to come to the table as many times he wants. There's no, in that rule book, it states that you can come as many times you want, but after 2 times, we're going to deduct the team point, because you're going to get a warning. And after that, it's going to be 1 point everywhere we go. So, but if you have the knowledge of the book, you understand the book, you'll know what we're applying out there and what we're doing. And then hopefully we can all kind of get along, or, maybe not see eye to eye, but we'll have an understanding that, okay, he called it fair. And that's it. Just read the book.
I'll say that, one, I got certified as an official many years ago. And when I walked in there, I was still young in my coaching career, but when I walked in there, I mean, you could hear a pin drop, because all the officials looked at me like, why are you here? But when I did read the rule book, or when I did learn the rule book, there's things as a coach that I didn't know. You know, but I knew how to coach and I knew technique and all that, but there was rules that I wasn't aware of that I learned. You know, so that was one thing. But you know, the other funny, I always remember, I'll never forget this. And I'm gonna say I was about 17 years old. But I remember I didn't play baseball anymore, but I remember I was waiting on a ride to go somewhere, you know. So I walked from my house up to the baseball complex, and the umpire at the time, I knew him. Matter of fact, I'm 99% sure it was Mark Bastinelli, who was my head coach in high school. His brother, he was an umpire in baseball as well. Well, they were down an umpire, and he asked me to do the bases. So I remember being out there while I'm waiting on my ride to just go somewhere and hang out as a high school kid. But I remember, I believe I was on second base. You know, I was behind second base. But I remember, and I played baseball for a long time before I switched to wrestling. But I remember the kid sliding into second base, and it was like a bang bang play. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to see if his foot touched the bag or if the ball was caught first? Like, how are my eyes supposed to go in two different directions? But I remembered like leaving there and being like, holy shit, like this is a hard job. Like it's hard to be in two different places at once or see two different things in two different directions at one time. And I just remember leaving there, and I'll never forget that though. And that didn't help me for a while when I was coaching, but I just never forget that. But like, there's so much more to it than you realize.
Yeah.
Unless you're actually doing it. And then, like, I think Jonathan Sutton said it last week. And then also, I remember another, you know, longtime official back home here, you know, that he basically was shitting himself every single time before big dual meets or big matches because he was so nervous. So, like, you know, you don't see or hear those things unless you're on the inside or somebody shares it with you that, like, you know, again, as much as there are times where the officials are wrong or they, you know, there's different opportunities for them or whatever, that they are human, man. And like, you have no idea what they're just like a kid gets nervous before a match. Or like when I was a young coach and my oldest boy, Michael, was young, I remember I was popping Imodium on the way to tournaments because I was shitting myself because I was so nervous. You know, it was hard coaching my own son, but you have no idea that these officials get nervous before they go out there as well. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah. They don't know, man. We're in that locker room, man. I tell you, you know, I had a big match, and I think it was 2 years ago, and I'm in there, and for some reason I wasn't nervous, but I looked, and I had this senior official with me, Matt Sorzinski, and I look at him, and he's the second official, he's my assistant, and he's rubbing his hands, and he's making me nervous, you know, like, well, I'm on the whistle, boy. He's you know, he's into it, but that's just how he is, right? And then all of a sudden, he just looks at me. He's like, Titus, you know, let's pray. And we said a prayer, you know, before the match and everything. And, you know, we just calmed down and we went out there, you know, hopefully we nailed it. But yeah, man, it's something, you know, until you put that shirt on and go out there, you know, they don't know what it's like in our shoes. They don't. But I can tell you, if they read that book and get an understanding of those rules, I guarantee when they bring us to that table, we can have a better conversation.
Well, I can guarantee you that probably half the gym loves you and half the gym hates you.
It sure is. Anytime I went to Iowa, I got half of them, yeah, and I got half of them wanting to kill me.
Yeah. All right. So whether it's, you know, professionally, but personally, on a personal level, you or your family or anything, is there anything that you want that we haven't already talked about, but is there anything that you want to share that you want people to know about you?
Well, they know I've been married for 15 years. I have a set of twins, an older son, 29. You know, I run 3 gyms, and hey, I'm blessed. That's pretty much me. There's nothing spectacular to my life. I love wrestling, and I love, you know, my job, and that's it. I tell my kids all the time, find what you love to do, and you will never work in your life. And right now, I'm not even working. I'm just enjoying life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm not sure if I see you this weekend at the Tussle in West Virginia, but I know that I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks at Columbus Day Duels in your conference. Yeah, I'm really excited. I appreciate everything you and your organization bring to the table for, you know, for our tournament organization. And like I said earlier, as much as I'd love to keep you guys all to myself, I want to make, you know, wrestling and our sport and the industry better. So if there's other tournament directors that are out there that need great officiating, they should contact you. And, you know, they can just go right on the website, social media, or call. But they should just look up, you know, National Wrestling Officials Association, and they'll find Titus Godbolt.
All right. I appreciate it, man. I really do.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
All right.